Hi everyone, it's Mr. Silbaugh here, and this is my take for Unit 8, Lesson 5. Now, in the last lesson we talked about APIs, and you used your first API. APIs are a growing trend in web development. They're not going away anytime soon. And you used Canvas, and it was kind of like a drawing application for your web browser. So today we're talking offline web applications, and there's one that you are very familiar with. Offline web applications allow users to interact with websites with no internet connection, and you're probably already thinking about that dinosaur game in Google Chrome. The web page will store information locally within the user's browser and is not required the internet to access it. This uses the application cache, which is a directory on the user's computer where files or apps are stored and can run without access to the program. This is very useful for people who lose connection, or if your internet fails, or if you move out of cellular range and you can't access the web page anymore. It allows you to utilize certain parts of the web page without having internet access. To continue, it uses a manifest. This is a list of files needed to work offline. It is required that you have that manifest, otherwise it won't be able to process the page. It tells the browser which files are going to be stored locally, and when the user regains connectivity, the cache will update automatically and the changes will be processed. The cache will reload any files in the event that any data has changed. So essentially, when you're working offline, you are working on a page that can still operate without access to the internet, but as soon as you regain access, it will update what you needed to have updated. This allows for quicker uploading of an application because the files are stored locally rather than on the server. And because of that, the browser does not put as much burden on the server, and the browser only will download important changes or updates. So how does it work? You would create a mandatory file called the cache.manifest. This is just a list of files needed for the web application to work offline. That's quite simply all it is. You'd list the main HTML, CSS, the image, and JavaScript files needed in order to work offline, and it requires the file name extension of .manifest. You have to have that, otherwise it won't code it correctly. The file name always includes the text cache manifest in the first line. This way that you know what you're talking about and you know what you're going to be using. So in this example, it starts off with cache manifest. This is required. It's a comment. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then it lists all of the pages in the cache and then the fallback. We're going to talk about that next. So the cache manifest line is required to identify the purpose of the code. What is it about? The next two lines are comments, which are optional, meaning you don't need to include them. They're just in case you do need them. And they're useful if you're working as a team, so whoever is updating your web page knows who did what. Then there are three sections: the cache, the fallback, and the network. The cache lists all of the files that are needed to operate offline, and the fallback determines what the user will see in the event a resource doesn't load. And then lastly is the network. This is a whitelist of files that are never stored and would need the server in order to process it. This is optional. Next, you would put the manifest code in the opening HTML tag, and it would look like HTML manifest equal date.manifest. This would be used if you would use a manifest and use your offline web application in order to access a page when you don't have internet. So this is a rather short lesson, and this concludes it. The lab for this lesson is optional because some of it is more advanced. So if you're unable to complete the lab, it's totally fine. In order to complete the lab, you would need to download the files from our CIW course website and just click on the file that's the HTML file in order to access it. Again, this is totally optional, not required, but if you want to take a look at it, you can at least look at the lab procedure in the CIW course website. All right, if you have any questions, please let me know.